Sal Marino here, the host of the One Poor Problems podcast. Today we have a great episode for you. It's called The Turnover Troubles, the Cost of Losing Top Talent. And today I am joined by a good friend of mine. We've done a couple of these now together, a couple of webinars, some fun stuff. Colby Coombs, the CFO at Westminster Tool. Super excited to have you on the show today.
Sal, no, thanks for having me. Let me stop by this afternoon. You mentioned a key word, cost. Being in my role, every dollar counts for me. So hopefully share some insight, both grow together and cover some good topics.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I think the perspective coming from the CFO seat is definitely something that needs to be talked about when talking about losing the top talent. So I'm excited to hear your story. So
very good.
Yeah,
excited to be here.
Awesome. So every part of the episode starts with us talking about the drinks. So you're the first person to ask for a hard cider on the show. So tell me, why is this significant for you?
Well, first I want to be unique. And, I fell onto Tapped Apple probably only a month or two ago. I was stumbling around Westerly. They have weird hours, so the place was always closed down. And it was finally opened, and I went in there and got a great story. It's a family-owned and operated cider place. They brew it.
That hits home, huh?
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. Family business at Westminster Tool. And it was unique because that, just like cider, just like beer, and even making injection molds like Westminster Tool, is manufacturing. So quality control, how can you duplicate? And also, we actually shared a good conversation about keeping and maintaining talent within the cider making business. Hey, what are you doing? What type of culture items are you trying to do to make sure you retain people and create a good environment so you don't lose people you invest so much time and money into?
Wow, that's crazy. That's how the world's all aligned right there.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I got the...
What kind did you get there?
First bite.
Is that
This is the original deal here?
That's a classic right there.
We got the blueberry.
Blueberry vanilla. It's good, yeah.
Cool. Open these up. And
that beautiful sound on a Tuesday afternoon.
Get a little bit of this in the Charles IT glass here. Got to stay on brand.
Very good. I could use one of these after the day already.
I hear you. End of the year, tax planning.
Yes. Cheers. Thank you.
Awesome. So, for me, I think one of the first things I want to talk about is definitely your background and your unique journey along the leadership route. So, you're the CFO of Westminster Tool. It's a family-owned and operated business. Someone that us at Charles IT hold in very high regard because your culture is very similar to how we operate, right? It's all about culture. And that's why it was so good to align for this specific show to talk about the different things that you're doing to make sure that you can maintain that culture, not lose the team, and use that as, the thing that continues to help you grow. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into the CFO role at Westminster Tool.
Yeah, no, it was unique. I come from more of a wealth management background with retirement planning and financial planning, and ended up coming through. Did a little real estate deals and private equity, and then when COVID happened, the whole world got turned upside down. And at that point, my father brought back my sister and I, Hannah, and myself, and we were in different parts. I was down in around the D.C. area at the time. Hannah was in Cincinnati, and we decided to put the three short Frenchmen under one roof and start the succession for the next generation, right? Mm-hmm. And I grew up around the business. Whenever I get in trouble, I'd have to clean machines and change a toilet paper or anything, and you grow to love it, where it's always that family atmosphere being in a small family business. Mm-hmm. And now as we transition to, the Industry 4.0, different technology requirements and everything that side, it's really fun to go after business we all grew up around, but make it our own and continue to build off that 12 feet deep foundation that my father and everyone in the business beforehand really helped build. Mm-hmm. And we learned about culture and core values at a really young age. and we understand the value it has with your team members. And now as we continue to grow, we got our own challenges, but also our own twists on things, right? And culture is throughout. It is not just one area. It's not just a marketing scheme you put together.
Yeah.
It has to be through and through, which is not just your team, but selecting customers and also selecting vendors, right? I think Charles IT and Westminster Tool, we call each other partners because that's what we are. We share the same culture values, and that's where you get the experience with dealing with all your team members and all of ours, and hopefully feel that same atmosphere between myself, Aaron, and anyone else dealing with that within my team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that rings true in the relationships you have outside of just your organization, right?
Yeah.
If you have that type of culture, those relationships continue to expand. Again, that's why we're here right now, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a perfect example of the cultures and how they align. So what I think is really unique though, and I'm curious for your take on it, is you being part of the family, own and operating the business. You talked about the core values. How do you make sure that the people that you're bringing on also maintain those core values, like they have that same mentality, like they're part of the family?
That's a great question, Sal, and I think it's across many facets where obviously the new team members you bring in, right, that is, they have to understand who you are as an organization, what you value. Yes, we make products, but we believe that we are in the people business. We want to give people opportunities, career opportunities, or even different people trying to get products out, like for our customers. So when you look at it, I think there's a handful. Is one, how are people, new team members is one half, and then you have existing, right? So the new team members are what we do in the community, how we are perceived within the community, how we're perceived to parents, whether you have new kids coming through the school system getting interested in manufacturing. When you have a culture, you have to be it throughout your body. It has to be completely synonymous throughout the whole organization, where how you do everything, because you can't have one escape. And that's more of a challenge where I think the new team members, they understand what Westminster Tool is about, and they know our culture. Our culture is we will hire for character. We only have the best people. We can always do things like we just did turkey bowling the other day, which was always a fun time where you create kind of a family-type environment, but also the existing employees. I was lucky that when I came on, we didn't have the transition that my father went through, where everyone was already a part of and bought into that culture. But it's making sure they understand at the very beginning that, hey, you're not just here for a job, you're part of a team. You have to understand that it's a little bigger than just making products, just being a machinist, just being a tool maker. You have to be bought into something bigger, and that's the type of person that we want. So when we identify the potential candidates that come in, they already know who we are as a business. They know what we stand for, and they don't just want to sign up for a job. They want to be part of something, and that something is our culture at Westminster Tool and making an impact, and our goal is improving the quality of life of everyone that interacts with us. So if that's something that they want to be a part of, they can come in. And hopefully, when we hire new people, we look for that right away. You know, our probationary period of 3 months is we hire fast. We hire slow, fire fast. Yeah, it's a little turnaround. We take a long time getting to know someone, and if there's any sign that they're not a culture fit, which isn't a bad thing, we'll always help them with a referral somewhere else. If you're not going to be bought in or part of this culture, it's not a fit, and we'll separate early rather than waiting a few more years after. Yeah,
no, and I love that mentality because you want to make sure that you're bringing the right people on, right?
Yeah.
Because we'll talk about the finance side.
Yeah.
There's a huge investment into that, right? To bring someone on, train them, get them up to speed. Like, you want that to work out. But one thing that I know that you and your organization does is you really think about having the right people and then finding the right seat. So it doesn't mean that they're always going to come on in the exact role that, maybe they applied to or first got hired into, right? Like, talk to me about like what right people, right seats really means to you.
Oh, that's the most important, because you look at a baseball team or any sports, I can make a analogy to that. If you have a star athlete, very athletic, and you have them maybe playing designated hitter in baseball, you're losing all this potential. Now, in manufacturing, it's the same way with output. How efficient can you be? What is your sweet zone? What is your personality type, your characteristics? Who do you work well with? You have to understand this person the most you can and understand someone's gaps and strengths and weaknesses. But more importantly, people like to be challenged and people like to be in the right zone. But when we bring people on, the first and important thing is I don't care if you're an engineering manager or you're going to take over finance like myself. You start off by doing 3 months in our box, we call it. And that's our onboarding phase where you're cleaning machines, you're learning the manufacturing processes, because technically we don't have job titles here. I have one so I can sign for the banks and talk to lawyers, but technically I could be doing shipping and receiving, I could be answering the phones, I could do janitorial work, because again, it's about being bigger. Now, right person, right seat, Sal, as you know, have you ever been in a position where you feel underutilized and it's diminishing? It's not fun, and it ends up being, a lot of times you can lose someone because of that. But on the backside is, if you have a person where you think they have their potential, but they're not in that zone yet, you could burn them out really, really quick, and you might lose someone because you put too much pressure, too much responsibility on. And I think it's important that you always look at what is someone's skill sets. What can you help train them, upskilling on soft skills or hard skills, and set a realistic goal. And you got to benchmark every single time, because if I put someone in a position they can't do, it's only going to fail both of us, right? It's not fair for either party, having unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think right now it's probably one of the bigger topics is what you mentioned about burnout like just really working with your team to make sure that you're in tune with where they are and how they feel. And I think in specifically manufacturing, right? Like, it's about production. It's about the output, right? And depending on the size of your team, depending on efficiencies, like there's a real chance for burnout. So how do you take that into consideration in your organization?
Well, I think burnout 100% relies on the strategic team to making sure that managers are hiring effectively, putting people in the right area, and listening, right? Something I think that both our organizations believe in is your employees are our greatest assets, right? 100%. So if we understand that we need to grow revenue, we need to grow profit, just to stay in business and continue to deliver for our customers. However, I know when I get overworked, and that's the first step, is when I feel burned out and I am at my wit's end, I know that's the time to stop, and I need to go meet with my team. Because if I'm feeling it, I know that they are too. And you always have to find a happy medium there, because you can't just have downtime all the time. However, I always like to go to financial metrics and ratios, and big in manufacturing is about utilization rate for machines, but you have it as much as for people too. And quick thing I always look at is how many overtime hours. If someone's logging 50 hours, maybe that person wants to make some extra overtime. We have uncapped, just because if someone wants to work and there is work, let them have it. I have no control over that. Yeah. However, if someone's logging 60 hours every week, we got to have a sit down. Well, what are you doing? What are you working on? And one, how's your headspace? Just care about the person. Is there problems at home where work is better? Yep. Is there? Are you stressed about your responsibility? Do we have to relook at your priority list? Because if you lose someone from burnout, that is 100% management responsibility. I think you have to get someone in the right workload, and also you have to look ahead. We're always planning. If I'm seeing a growth stage coming up next year, then I'm going to start slowly hiring and bringing up the team to onboarding before that. And as well, if we see that, what was I going to say? If we're too slow, we either got to fill in work, or else you have to shift structures again. So you're always looking. I try to find benchmark financials where 85% is my rule of thumb. As you know, we'll get phone calls. Just like our floor employees, they're going to get random work that pops up. Yep. Maintaining at 85% means that, hey, there's still more availability, but they're not rushed. Maybe they don't scrap something. And as well, if they have time to improve things, then they can try to reduce the amount of time it takes to do these manufacturing steps. So hopefully free up more time, increase output, more business, hopefully grow, and increase the pay scale.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about if I'm feeling overwhelmed, like the first thing I need to do is check on my team. I think that's a seriously profound thing, right? Because I know from my own personal journey, like growing in this organization where, I had a ton of responsibility all on me when I first started and didn't really know what my limits were, right? And I would work myself to the point where you crash, like there's nothing left for you. And, having you say that, like, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to check on my team, because if you're overwhelmed, you're not thinking about anybody else, right? You're
Yeah.
thinking about you and like how do I get out of this mountain of things, work, like stressors, So I think that's really profound to be able to say that's your first thing you do.
And do what I find with is you always look yourself in the mirror, right? If you feel it, the only people that could genuinely help me get out of that burnt out or that 120% utilization, right? Your over capacity on your plate. Most of the time, the only people that can help me get out of it is my team.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling it, how are they doing, right? And then also let's reshift priorities. I think it's really important. There's a book, Extreme Ownership, about accountability.
Yep.
Always put the mirror facing you first. So if I'm feeling burnt out, what am I doing wrong? And then also, how's the rest of the team? If they have open hours, can they help? Can I reprioritize their hours so that they're not burnt out and they have availability? And it goes back to, too, if I'm being burnt out and the rest of the shop is being burnt out, that's when you have real concerns. Like in manufacturing, we have safety concerns. We have scrap and rework concerns. And all of these compound or exponential. So if people are really overworked and they're tired, okay, you have safety issues potentially. Well, let's avoid that one. We say we have very good safety protocols. But instead, we have scrap. So now if someone's working 110% and then they scrap the part, now again, this 120% of the output you need to have there. It's really managing expectations and working with a sales team by saying, hey, maybe we slow down, maybe we give a longer lead time so we don't have to jam pack it in too much. And do we look at hiring? Do we look at upskilling? Do we look at outsourcing, bring on additional help? All of that is to maintain, because there's a cost when people are overworked. And if someone leaves because we didn't listen, and if someone leaves because we didn't understand their workload for something realistic, there's some times where I've sat down with someone and I've realized that they were my easy button. I mean, I can delegate things to them every single week and it gets done. And then shame on me, a year goes by and I say, hey, can you help me with this? You're like, no, I can't. And I'm like, okay, let's take a look at your plate. And I realize you just took off all my burden and now it's on your plate. They're shifting. So you always got to be in touch with the team there, because they are my number one asset. Without them, we can't make anything, and we don't have a business we get to share this great culture with.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think one of the bigger tactics and things that you should be doing is really focusing on your retention strategy, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're gonna focus on retention, the idea is, how do I change the conversation away from retention, where it's like I'm in defensive mode, trying to save somebody from leaving the organization, to making them feel like a priority from the beginning, right? So that we don't have to get to that conversation. How do you focus on that?
It's funny. I think it's ever growing, right? But retention is a leading indicator, right? Are you retaining people? Because it needs to be set at the very beginning. When you're even interviewing, they have to have expectations on, what do we do here? What are we about? And it always comes back to listening to the team. We make it mandatory for reviews, quarterly reviews. And we make it team member led. So what they do is they come prepared with metrics. They compared with what skills have they learned, and also, how are you feeling? And like every conversation we start with, or at least I try to, how are you feeling? How's your headspace? What type of mood are you in? How's your workload? Because you get a little sense there. And it's unbelievable. I think that's a human element, just generally caring. You can't fix everyone's issues, but if you understand it and understand that we don't live to work. We don't work to live. It's an in-between where we have a job and hopefully we enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And how do we retain? I think, one, being on top of, by having those quarterly meetings, the way it's set up, it allows us to get a gauge and a temperature check on the employee. So we don't wait 1 year. If 1 year happens, maybe they were really angry or they were upset with something and they waited 6 months to be able to communicate it. That's where you start losing team members. And again, I go through the accountability on the shared side is, as management and leadership team, you need to be out there. You need a budget time to go talk to the team, understand, and also set goals. I think retention, it depends on each person. And without having a real honest conversation with them, and you have to understand what makes them tick. Some people, they like free time. They like having a flexible work schedule to spend time with their families. Well, then, hey, let's work around that and understand that is your ticker. Another person might be, I just want to learn as many skills as possible. Well, okay, maybe a flexible schedule isn't really the right answer for them, but a really concrete training plan or a new skill set or challenging is going to help keep them. It's just like anything else. It's unless you're growing and being challenged, Just like your muscles, you have atrophy. You
Yeah.
gotta keep moving. You can't be stagnant. And as a leader, that means walking around the shop, talking to every person you can, and just have a mental log. What's important to them, and as well, there's a bunch of other things, budgeting, making sure that we have to increase profits, we can pay them more. There's merit-based, and then there's inflation-based raises. Those are all little ones, but unless you talk to someone face-to-face, have an honest conversation with them, you'll never know. And when they come to you, it is already too late, and you can't amend it. And that's I feel strongly about that one.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I think one of the biggest things to think about when you're talking to your team, everyone says people only care about pay and benefits and retirement, right? Like those are the main things that everybody wants. But at the end of the day, I consider culture to be the flexibility and the ability to adapt to the needs of the people on the team.
Yeah.
So you saying, like, me just talking to this person and getting an understanding of what they want, like maybe they just want to work a little bit more to make some extra money, or this person needs the flexibility because they want to get to their kid's baseball game, right? Or this person wants you to continue to line up the certifications or the training opportunities to be able to knock them down so they can learn and grow and develop. I think for me, that is culture. That is being able to say, like, we are human centric, right? You actually care about the people. So I love that, like, mentality. And I love that you said that you budget time. You're a finance guy.
Yeah.
I got to budget my time. But you're doing that to be able to actually, like, listen to your employees. So if you were going to give that advice to, another leader or an emerging leader, like what would you tell them to do for some strategies around, like, really listening to their team?
I'm a creature by habit, and that's a great question. And I think just like CapEx and financial budgeting, I manage my time very surgical because you only have so much available. What I'd advise is budget 2 hours a week, right? That's roughly 5% of your week, and create a routine where I know that at least once a month I will have a 15-minute conversation with every team member. In manufacturing, there's a thing called Gemba walk, where you walk a process. Well, I have a walk that I do, where I walk around, I check in if I can get a temperature check. Sometimes just looking at someone, you get an idea and saying, okay, I need a budget an hour to go talk to that person. But when you allocate time, it turns it from too late to you're ahead of it. It's an investment, right? It's almost like an insurance policy where if 6 months, if someone didn't have a tool or resource that would have helped them, when they come to you in 6 months, you already burned it by not listening. Yep. So understanding that, it is an investment, and I think I would implore every person to understand that my employees are my customers. How can I better serve my customers? I need to talk to them. What are their challenges they're facing? Are those challenges within my control? Well, oftentimes there are. Other times they're not. And when you listen and you budget time out there, it removes the excuse that I used to say, I don't have time to do. I don't have time. Well, I realized I needed to make time because you have an instance where someone comes to you and say, hey, look, I'm not happy here, everything else, and it's the damage is unfixable at that point. Yeah. And once you understand the cost of getting someone upskilled and brought on, you realize that time investment on my end is needed 100% because that's the way you can truly learn who someone is and what makes them tick.
Yeah, I love the insurance reference because I think people don't actually look at it that way, but when something happens, you're super happy that you have insurance.
Yes.
And that same reference of, if an employee comes to me and they're ready to leave, guess what? All of a sudden you have time. You're going to make time. You're going to figure out what you got to do, and you're going to go down this whole path rather than putting the insurance policy in place and regularly checking in on that person. That is exactly why you have insurance, right?
Exactly. And it's about being proactive rather than reactionary. Yeah. A few years ago when if I was reactionary and tried to buy cyber insurance for the business email compromise we have, I would have been out of loss completely. So I recognized the importance of it, understood it, and I allocated, in this case, money, a small amount, in order to ensure that I had protection.
I would like to state for the record that was not with Charles IT.
That was not with Charles IT. Yes, that was a before the Charles IT Westminster Tool partnership.
Had to get that one out there.
Yes, get that one out. That was a challenge beforehand. We've actually clean slate, knock on wood, since there. But it's one of those things where when you value your team and you start treating them as customers rather than vendors or even employees, when you treat them as customers and they are my customer and I'm going to service them to the best of my ability, what happens is they feel heard, they feel understood, and it's a lot easier to hear the true challenges from the people on the front line rather than me in my office, you know? And I always try to allocate budget time for it because saying I don't have enough time is inexcusable. And you got to be out there. And not only that, you get to hear a lot of funny stories. It's a lot more fun chatting with people than not. And if you had like a large organization, whether you're 30, 50, or 100, I know there's times where it's difficult to talk to every single person, but you could put controls in place. You can get with managers. There's often times where I know that maybe there's 5 to 10 people I might not be able to get to in a month. I can say, hey, one of my managers, would you please spend some time talking to these people? I didn't get them this month. I want to make sure that they're checked in with. What are they going through? And to hear it from them directly and get ahead of it. And, I definitely just talking with people. We're all humans. We're all humans. And it pays its dividends, just caring about your team, caring about your employee base, and making sure that they're heard, and often finding challenges you didn't even know existed that helps throughput and helps with profit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny because we just came back from our, we do an epic outing once a year. We take the entire company on a plane somewhere. Like, again, it's all the culture thing, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's less about the things we do, the experiences, all of that. It's really about the fact that I spent a bunch of time on this trip with people that I don't normally spend time with.
Yeah.
And so I got to really know like a few individuals from our technical team that I probably interacted with maybe 3-4 times prior, short conversations, something like that. But now, like, I have these stories. I have these things that I could go and I can joke with them about, and I can, like, have these conversations, and it allows them to also be more comfortable with me, right? Because us as leaders in the organization, we're buzzing around a million miles an hour doing what we need to do. We often don't, like, get the chance to interact on the day-to-day. They don't just get to know us like as people, right?
Oh, I think that's so important. Like doing what Charles IT did, going to Nashville, bringing the team down, it shows us an investment. It shows that it is a priority of the organization. But not only that, it allows you to spend time in a unique way, where it's outside of the day-to-day where, you know, maybe we'll be stressed out about, oh, this person needs to pay, or, you know, we're trying to put this deal together. Well, a lot of the times you can't be as present in that moment. And when you find opportunities to be 100% present with a person, and this is with a friend, a partner, a spouse, if you're married, or any of the team member, when you can actually be there present, you know how it feels when you're hurt, and it's that same opportunity. And what I try to do is a lot of the times breaks, don't let OSHA or whatever the payroll, I never take breaks. But I know when we're really busy, I got to go take a break, and I got to go out with the team, just sitting there, right? Sitting there, I let my dog run around, they play fetch with them, like, how's life? Because it's that one little instance where even during the craziness, you can hang out and speak on a natural human level. And you brought up a good point, too. I think creating those opportunities for a non-serious collaboration or a team bonding is so important to the organization. And a lot of times it costs you nothing and gains you everything. It's usually, Nashville is a little more expensive price tag, right? But there's ways that we always find where it's an investment that pays its dividends for us every single time. Where, like, again, I mentioned the turkey bowling we did. We get a frozen turkey. It's maybe $15-$20. We get some bowling pins and we let everyone bowl. And if you bowl a strike within, or a strike or a spare, I'm not the best bowler even with a turkey. We do gift cards. We have gift cards from all the local businesses around the area.
I love it.
In Plainfield. Now, what that did was, okay, there was a cost where I know that we can get $200 to $300 an hour per team member, right, from revenue. So if I shut down 20, 30 people for half an hour, yes, I'm losing some potential revenue, but what they'll do is they'll stay a little later. Or, hey, that was good. I take a break in a day. When you're not all strung out looking at numbers, looking at measurements, and you take a time to do something fun, you realize that it's not all about work. It's about us together, having an experience and getting to know each other on a different level besides just clocking in and out every day.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny because you have to have that perspective because, yes, we just spent some time bowling and pulling people off of like the production floor and we're potentially losing out on revenue. But again, that employee might be burnt out. They might not be happy. They might be ready to leave, right? And then what happens when they do, right?
Yeah.
Now that whatever $200, $300 or whatever it is in revenue that you make per hour on every employee, you've lost on that employee because you didn't do the things that you could have done, and that will outweigh what you just did. So I love that mentality for sure.
I challenge other business owners to truly look at it that way. Like I know our whole payroll, all of our wages, direct labor and SG&A is about 35% of our budget each year.
Yep.
That is by far the greatest expense that we have on our books.
100%.
So, on the Pareto, where you spend your most time and effort on your biggest items. Well, okay, if it's payroll, let's care about these team members. Let's try to find different ways we can navigate it. And I challenge, like sometimes I'm a part of another board where American Mold Builders, and they joke that we're the liberals in Connecticut and we can get away with that. And I'm like, there's nothing liberal about this. This is about truly caring about the people, right? And at the end of the day, yes, I can balance a checkbook or make a budget, but I can't make these complex injection molds. And when you value them that much and you spend these little items, you realize that it'll take some time, but you're going to create a level of unison and create a dynamic team that is truly invested and bought into hopefully the envision of a great company culture that your customers will experience and your vendors will as well.
Yeah. No, so your space is really interesting to me because right now it's one of the most in demand, right? There's not enough people to do the work that is needed in manufacturing. And so I know a lot of organizations are turning to different state programs and things to try to partner to bring on entry-level people, get them trained up and get them into the workforce. What are some things that you guys are doing on the career development side to, give your employees the upside, the ability to continue to grow and develop, with Westminster Tool?
So I got a lot on this one. I gotta give a tip of the cap to my father for building out one of the most unique and greatest resource that we have, which is our Westminster Academy. So something that we developed internally was we created a training plan and different maps and basically career paths within our company. So I'll have one for CFO. There'll be a entry machinist. There'll be a engineer. There'll be a manager. And each of these we made it a responsibility for a coach and a player. So it's shared responsibility on the outcome of duplicating the knowledge and passing it off. And what's really important is Connecticut is leading the whole nation on advanced manufacturing pipelines. There are great initiatives all over the state. I want to shout out Paul Lavoie for doing an outstanding job for manufacturing in Connecticut. Yep. We are very, very blessed as an industry in this area because there are these programs where I believe it was old article back in Harvard Business Review. Don't fact check me on this one, please. But I believe it was like 2013.
That means we're fact checking.
Yes, please do. I believe it was 2013. They found out that all manufacturing, doesn't matter if you're a hot dog maker, a shoelace maker, or a complex injection mold builder, or you're building helicopters. I think it was 60% of the skills were all the same. So what Connecticut did was recognize that is basic manufacturing skill sets with inspection, maybe it's measurement, maybe it's print reading, and they created a pipeline for that. And then now what ends up happening is Westminster Tool takes the final 40%. That's our secret sauce. That's how can we do precision machining? How can we do molding and validation? And between those programs that the state created, and we always will help share insight, we invested our time to help build these programs so that we can have our say in what they're being educated on. And it comes back and we get to bring someone and put them into our academy. So we have that, which is great for retention, constantly challenging, creating new skills. But it all starts into recruitment, and we got a little unique approach where we start recruiting, and not really recruiting, but exposing our company from pre-K all the way through high school, all the way into community colleges. So pre-K will help do makerspace programs, and half of that is getting kids exposed STEM, and the other half is getting parents exposed. Parents oftentimes manufacturing, they think, oh, this is going to be a steel mill, dirty, grimy, and they come into our facility for a tour. They're like, oh, this is state of the art. They have 3D printers. They have everything else there. It's very clean. You can eat off these floors. So part of bringing it in is we have a waiting list. Like, we have a waiting list, I think it's at 12 right now, of people looking for an opportunity to come work for us. And that takes years of building that culture, truly caring about our team. And I got to give my sisters credit. They are way better looking and better at this than I am. But they help bring people on. And all the high schools, it's people want to be a part of this, because it's not just making parts. They want to be a part of something that we developed.
No, absolutely. I think that's a really cool thing that you guys are doing. And I think anyone that's not spending some time building out dedicated paths and career progression and focused on continuing to progress their team are just, they're prolonging the wait before they leave, right? They're just waiting for them to leave rather than building something for them to stay.
You're delaying the inevitable.
Exactly.
And you know what it feels like when you lose something very important, even like a vendor, if a vendor closed down. Well, so let's use a vendor example where you have one person, for me, they do plating, right? We'll make something up. And because I was not proactive, I didn't find a backup, or I went to go make sure, hey, Mr. Vendor, are you okay? How's your business? How's the health of the business? And then also I'm making sure that I'm talking to a few others, make sure I have backups. So when Mr. Vendor, he wasn't proactive, he wasn't putting employee and culture first, and wasn't hiring or retaining people when they close, I have backups now. Rather than I am struggling, I have to stop and invest 40 hours nonstop into trying to address this issue because I didn't invest an hour each month beforehand trying to do it. Again, it's a use of time. It's X amount of hours, no matter what. You're either going to be panicking trying to find a backup, and you might rush and skip over things, or you slowly do it a little bit at a time. Take a bite of the elephant, and it makes it a little more achievable. So get out there and make it a priority. And we try to, because of our training program, we know we can train anyone anything, but we just want to find the right person.
100%. Yeah, right culture fit. Train them on the rest.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure. So I know how things are in the tech space, right? For salaries, for a while, it was name your price, and you could go anywhere you wanted, and that has definitely changed a little bit as of late. But I'm curious to see how's that impacting you in the manufacturing space. Is it similar to that, where a lot of in-demand jobs looking for skilled people, and you could pay a premium to find the right talent? What was that like for you?
That is a very challenging thing to deal with. And I hate to be a broken record here, but it does come down to culture. And in the tech space, I think is a great example. I have buddies that are making exuberant amount of money because they can. It's an in demand. I would say precision manufacturing in our industry, highly skilled manufacturing jobs, is extremely in demand. But what we recognize is, as an organization, we cannot compete with some of these behemoths of the state. But what we recognize is we are not them, and we separate ourselves immediately from that. So when it comes down to pay, is we understand that the cost of inflation, we really try to make sure we're ahead of that. Cost of living goes up. We want to make sure people are not scavenging pennies and going through their couch. We want to make sure that they're paid competitively. We always look at the benchmarks for a national survey and also local, because someone in Texas might not be the same comparative as Connecticut. However, when you look at local, you can understand that on a national level, we are probably one of the highest paid in our industry. But on a local level, we're probably right in the middle. We're not overpaid. We're definitely not underpaying. We're right in the middle. But what we understand is what we have to give is different than what those maybe 50% more per hour jobs are.
Yeah.
They'll be doing the same thing every day. They're not going to get the turkey bowl on. They're not going to have this family unique experience. You truly make it as small, and we understand that we will pay competitive as much as we can and still maintain profitability, because if we gave everyone massive raises, well, then the whole business won't be there. And they understand that. And we are truly transparent. Hey, here's what the wages are. Here's what the benchmarks are. We understand. I know, and I look people, I know you can go make $30, $40 an hour at XYZ company. But I hope you stay, because we'll challenge you. We'll give you more opportunities in the long run, and you'll be a part of something. And we hope that you enjoy working here. And even when we're hiring, we set that expectation very soon. And a lot of the times, most of our team members that come from either previous industries or different companies, they're taking pay cuts. They're taking pay cuts to be a part of a culture that cares about them and believes in them. Yep. And again, that business model, that turkey bowling is a small cost to pay from people taking pay cuts to come work, because they understand that it's bigger than just a paycheck.
Yeah, and again, we're very similar, right? I would consider us right in the middle for pay, and I think a lot of organizations have the benefit of saying, like, go work remote. I can pay you more. You can work remote, but it's like, great. Then you work remote, and you don't have this culture. You don't have this relationship buy-in with everybody around you, and the learning and development doesn't happen as fast. And I think there's definitely something to be said about that when it comes to company culture, because I'd be hard-pressed to have anybody tell me that a fully remote or even mostly hybrid organization can match either of our cultures, since we're full in the office.
We are humans, right? And communication is key for everything. And I have to be careful, because literally yesterday I worked from home all day because I'm catching up on work and needed a little less distractions, right? Yeah. But on the backside is you need a human element in business, and we just had a training. We shut the shop down. We did a training about communication. They said, text, only 5% of the message is received. Emails, 10. Phone calls, 25. Video calls are still only 50. So even with a Zoom call where, I'm wearing sweats and a button down up top, right? It's that, even though that is still, comfort is on a high, comfort is definitely elevated, but you're missing that personal, that personal, what is that, connection you have with someone. And body language. I can't tell if someone's happy or unhappy on a Zoom call. Yeah. However, when I'm face to face, you can sit in and say, "Hey, let's take a breath. What's going on there?" You can truly know if someone is, and it's about that culture. And the pay, we do pay, but we also, there's some times where someone really wants to make more, and we want to hold on to them. We find a skill set where they can add more value. Hey, if you're able to do this job here, we can give you a $3-4 raise. But right now you're not there. But let's get you on a path to get there. Love it. And again, that's a transparent conversation. You're not there yet. We know how to get you there. It's going to take a lot of work. If you're willing to do it, we can get you there. Let's get a plan together.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way to do it. You got to be able to provide the path. That's what people want. They want the path.
Yeah.
So as we transition here to the end of the show, I think for me, would love to hear from your perspective. If you could go back in time.
Yep.
And you're back at the beginning of your leadership journey. What's something that you've learned now that you would go back in time and tell yourself, like, these are the things that you should be thinking about or considering? What would that look like?
I would say, it's a tough question, Sal. Let me ponder this a little more. What would I tell myself? I would tell myself, be extremely surgical with my time and be very intentful with how I spend it. Analyze what's repeat. I think time is the most valuable item that we have here in our lives, and managing the time. I go back to budgeting time to speak with the team. I talk about budgeting time for myself to go read, to go travel, to go exercise. I think that I approached burnout soon, or very fast. Young, I'll work 80 hours. I still love working 80 hours, but now my 80 hours is I know I'm sacrificing something on the other side. I think the other thing is talk to as many people as you can. You're only as strong as your network. And I think I recognized that young, but I should have recognized it a little earlier, where I am not that bright, but I know a lot of bright people. Yeah. So the more I surround myself with bright people and I get educated, and I think it's always add value to their lives and you'll get value in return. Always lend a helping hand and you will get help in return, but never seek it. If you manage your time well, then again, I ran into that challenge. If I managed my time better, I could have managed my network better. I could have spent more time with people. And now I'm at the point where I try to communicate that to everyone I come in contact with, especially oversee and manage, to, hey, your time is your most valuable item. Let's make the most out of it, and let's be realistic about what our goals, priorities are, and making sure it's being spent wisely.
Yeah, love it. Appreciate the insight. It's been great having you on the show. At the end of every show, we do drop the surprise on you of having to do a typing test.
Oh, okay.
And that typing test right now has quite the leaderboard.
Okay.
There's anywhere from a resounding disqualification to a 70, I believe, as the high score. So we have the leaderboard up right now. Our last episode, we had Emily Wood come in with a pretty tough score of 69. So that's now good for second place out of all the episodes. And still looking for someone to dethrone the champion, which
that's you?
Maybe me as of right now with a 70.
Bit.
So
alrighty.
Let's have you get after it, and we'll have to stay tuned for the next show to see what your score is.
Alrighty. Let's wish me luck, guys. Let's dethrone Sal. Start test. Okay, here we go.
No pressure. He's going to have to lock in if he wants to win. Real lock in. I don't think he had enough cider to be limbered up enough to break 70.
Oh, God.
He's locked in, though. Pressure's on. It's like you took the 10-minute typing test.
Oh, what did I do? What do we score here?
Show results.
22.
Wait for the advertisement. Because we have that advanced to the paid version.
What is that?
So that's all we had for today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to listen to the episode, but a special thank you to you, Colby. It was awesome having you on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Sal. Always a pleasure hanging out with similar companies with similar beliefs, and always love chatting. It's nice to get you guys know better. Oh, let me redo that one. Get you guys know better. That's a tough one. Where can I start off from? Thanks for having me.
Just start with your thank you.
All right.
Happy to be here, whatever.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate the time to get to hang out and talk culture. As you know, Westminster and Charles IT try to be leaders in this space, so hopefully share some good insight. Hopefully people got a few takeaways, and looking forward to having some more Tapped Apple with you and enjoying the conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.